"Uncle, please, don't come near me." He ignored her, his footsteps slow and threatening as he moved closer. Grace darted to the side, panic rising in her chest, but he grabbed her wrist and yanked her back. She screamed. "Leave me alone!" she cried, kicking and struggling. He dragged her to the couch, his breath heavy. "Keep shouting. Nobody go hear you." She kicked at him again, hitting his arm, but he was stronger. He pushed her down, pinning her shoulders to the couch. She screamed again, louder this time, desperate. "Help! Somebody help me! Sit tight. Let me tell you a shocking and touching story of a young girl and her uncle. And don't forget to subscribe and share." The sun poured golden rays over the city as luxury cars sped past the gates of Beauty Limited, a leading cosmetics company in Lagos. Inside the boardroom sat Mrs. Williams, sharp, composed, and dressed in elegance. At just 38, she had built a business empire from scratch. But while investors praised her brilliance and newspapers called her a visionary, there was a different story unfolding at home, one that rarely made headlines. Grace Williams, her 15-year-old daughter, lived in a mansion that echoed with silence. Each day after school, the driver dropped her off at the wide, marbled compound. The security men greeted her with a nod, but no one asked how school went. She unlocked the grand front door, walked into the quiet house, changed into comfortable clothes, and headed to the study table with her books. Her mother wouldn't be home until late evening. The house was beautiful. Chandeliers, polished floors, tall mirrors, and paintings on the walls. But to Grace, it was just a golden cage. Grace was a bright student, always first in class, always on her best behavior. But her heart ached for something more than praise. She longed for laughter. For someone to sit beside her while she studied. 4 stories before bed. For her mother's voice reading her a bedtime book, like she remembered faintly from her early childhood. One evening, while they sat at the long dining table, eating dinner under the dim chandelier, Grace decided to speak. "Mummy," she began, her voice soft. Mrs. Williams didn't look up. She was replying to a business message on her phone. "Yes, baby." "I want you to start spending more time at home," Grace said, eyes focused on her plate. "I feel bored and alone. There's nobody to talk to when you're at the office. My classmates are always picked up by their parents. I feel left out." Mrs. Williams paused, her spoon midway to her mouth. She looked up at her daughter, then exhaled. "Pick you up every day? Grace, you know Mummy doesn't have time for that. The driver will keep picking you." "Okay. But I'm not asking for a driver," Grace mumbled, voice cracking. "I'm asking for you." Mrs. Williams leaned forward and placed her hand on Grace's. "Mummy loves you, okay? But work is very important right now. I'm building something for your future." Grace nodded, but her eyes told a different story. They were tired. Tired of being told that later would be better. That tomorrow would bring more love. That night, Grace went to bed early. Her books lay untouched. She stared at the ceiling, trying not to cry, but the tears came anyway. She buried her face in her pillow and whispered, "I just want you here now, not in the future." The following afternoon, Mrs. Williams was working on her laptop in her office when her phone rang. She sighed and looked at the screen. "Daniel," she muttered. "I'm too busy to talk now." But something told her to pick up. "Hello," she said, her voice low. "Sis, it's me," came the voice on the other end. It was her younger brother, Daniel. "Don't hang up. I won't take much of your time." "What is it?" she asked, already irritated. "I've just been posted to Lagos for my NYSC. I'll need to stay with you for a while." There was a brief silence. "So that's why you're calling," she finally said. "You could have just come. It's your house too." "Thanks, sis," he replied. "I'll be there on Tuesday." When Mrs. Williams arrived home that evening, she found Grace asleep on the living room couch, her books beside her. She had waited for her mother and fallen asleep in the silence. Mrs. Williams set the table quietly, then gently woke her up. "Dinner is ready, baby," she whispered. As they sat eating together, she said, "Your Uncle Daniel is coming to Lagos for NYSC. He'll be staying with us for a while." Grace's eyes lit up. "Really?" "Yes," Mrs. Williams said. "So you won't be alone all the time when I'm away." Grace smiled. She barely remembered him, just bits and pieces from when she was much younger, but at least she wouldn't be the only one in the mansion anymore. On Tuesday afternoon, a yellow cab pulled up in front of the mansion. Grace peeked through the window and saw a tall man with a travel bag step out. She rushed to the door. "Uncle Daniel?" she asked. He smiled. "Grace, right?" "Yes." "Welcome." She helped him carry his bag inside, offered him a glass of juice, and showed him his room. Then she returned to her study table like she always did. Later that evening, Mrs. Williams arrived. She was visibly happy to see her brother. "Now you see," she said during dinner, "you won't be alone again. Your uncle will keep you company." Grace smiled politely, then looked at her mother. "Mummy, it still won't be the same without you around." Mrs. Williams smiled back but didn't respond. She simply patted Grace on the head and changed the topic. That night, Daniel went to his room and unpacked. As he opened his window for air, he glanced across the hallway and saw Grace sitting at her desk, solving math problems. "Na wa," he muttered to himself. "This my sister-daughter fine Shah." He pulled out a pack of cigarettes, lit one, and leaned back against the wall. A disturbing thought flickered through his mind. "I go touch her. No be only Madame Godet enjoy her mansion." He chuckled, exhaled smoke, and closed his eyes. From the outside, the mansion looked perfect, beautiful gardens, polished glass, and security guards at the gate. But behind the tall fences and thick walls, the air had begun to shift. Grace still followed her normal routine: school, books, dinner, but now she was cautious. Her Uncle Daniel had only been in the house for a few days, yet his presence already made her uneasy. The first time it happened, it seemed innocent. Grace had just returned from school. She changed into her usual home clothes, folded her uniform neatly, and went to the living room to revise her math notes. Uncle Daniel walked in from his room, fresh from a nap and reeking faintly of cigarettes. Grace glanced up. "Welcome, Uncle," she greeted politely. He nodded, then grinned. "Grace, what are you reading so seriously?" "Mathematics," she replied. "Come let me see," he said, patting the space beside him on the couch. She hesitated. "Don't be shy," he chuckled. "I just want to check your book." Grace slowly walked over and sat beside him. She opened the book and pointed to the equations. But then, something changed. His hand rested on her shoulder, at first casual, then it slid down her arm. She shifted uncomfortably. "You smell like cigarette, Uncle," she muttered, trying to distract herself. He leaned closer. "Shut up. Where did you smell cigarette?" he asked sharply. His other hand touched her thigh. Grace froze. "Uncle, what are you doing?" she whispered, panic rising in her chest. "Nothing, I'm just," he mumbled, his breath close to her ear. Then she shouted, "Stop! My mummy warned me nobody should touch me there." Daniel's face darkened. But before he could say another word, Grace jumped up, slapped his hand away, and ran to her room. She locked the door and backed into the corner, her heart pounding. He followed, banging on the door. "Open this door now, Grace. Do you want to see what I'll do to you? You think your mummy will believe you?" But she didn't answer. She curled into her bed, trembling. Her once peaceful mansion had become a nightmare. That evening, Mrs. Williams returned home. "Grace," she called. "Mummy is back." There was no answer. Mrs. Williams frowned and walked toward the hallway. "Grace." Finally, the door creaked open, and Grace peeked out. When she saw her mother, she ran into her arms and hugged her tightly. "What happened, my baby? Why did you lock yourself inside?" Mrs. Williams asked, stroking her hair. Before Grace could speak, Daniel strolled in, smiling. "Sis, welcome," he said cheerfully. "I think Grace is just overwhelmed with schoolwork. She's been a bit emotional today." Mrs. Williams sighed. "Let me take my shower first. I've had a long day." As she walked away, Daniel leaned toward Grace and whispered coldly, "You open that mouth and see if your mother won't regret it." Grace's body stiffened. She pulled away and returned to her room without a word. That night, she barely slept. She kept the light on, her school bag by her side like a shield. The following morning, she got ready for school slowly, hoping for a chance to tell her mother everything. "Mummy," she said as her mother got ready for work. "Not now, Grace," Mrs. Williams interrupted, adjusting her watch. "I'm running late. Whatever it is, tell me when I get back." Her mother gave her a quick kiss on the forehead and walked out the door. Daniel stood by the wall, arms folded. As soon as the door slammed shut, he walked toward her. "You think you're smart, ABI? You want to spoil my life," he sneered. Grace backed away, fear written all over her face. "Uncle, please, I won't tell anybody," she whispered. "You better not. Because if you do," he trailed off, raising his hand slowly. Grace flinched. Daniel laughed and walked off to his room, leaving her trembling by the door. At school that day, Grace was unusually quiet. Her teacher, Mrs. Okoro, noticed. "Grace, what's going on with you lately?" she asked during class. "You're always distracted." Grace shook her head. "I'm fine, Ma." But her eyes said otherwise. Mrs. Okoro made a mental note to follow up. During break, Grace sat under a mango tree by herself. Other students were laughing, playing, eating. But she sat there, her thoughts heavy. She was afraid, ashamed, alone. Her uncle had promised to ruin her life if she spoke. Her mother wouldn't even listen. She thought about running away, but where would she go? When school closed, Grace didn't go home immediately. Instead, she stayed at the tree, pretending to read. She kept looking at her watch. 6 p.m. Mummy should be home by then. That evening, Mrs. Williams drove past the school compound and saw her daughter sitting alone outside the gate, her bag on her lap. "Grace," she called, rolling down the car window. "What are you doing here?" Grace forced a smile. I decided to read in the school library, then came out to get fresh air." Mrs. Williams nodded, a bit confused. "Get in. Let's go home." That night, Grace pretended to be asleep early. Her mother had brought home ice cream, hoping to cheer her up. But Grace couldn't enjoy it. Her stomach churned with fear. She knew Daniel was still in the house. Still waiting. Still watching. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Please God, don't let him hurt me again." Saturday morning brought a different kind of air to the mansion. For once, Mrs. Williams was home. She wore a simple t-shirt and jeans, her hair tied back in a loose bun. It was rare for her to be around on weekends, and Grace treasured every second of it. "Mummy, let's play something," Grace said eagerly. Mrs. Williams smiled. "Okay, let's play Ludo. But don't cry when I win." They laughed and sat on the floor with the Ludo board between them. Grace rolled the dice and moved her piece while her mother teased her. For the first time in a while, Grace felt safe, just the two of them, laughing. No silence. No fear. No Uncle Daniel. But happiness, it seemed, never lasted long in the mansion. Just when the game was heating up, Mrs. Williams's phone rang. She checked the screen and sighed. "One of my clients needs to pick up a signed document. I have to run to the office quickly," she said. Grace's smile faded. "Mummy, can I come with you?" "No, darling," she said, already getting up. "I'll be back soon. Besides, your uncle is around. You won't be alone." "But Mummy," Grace started, standing up. Mrs. Williams cut her off. "It's just a quick trip. I promise. Finish the game, and I'll complete it with you when I return." She grabbed her handbag and walked toward the door. Grace's heart raced. "Mummy, please don't go." But her mother was already gone. The door clicked shut. Silence returned. Grace stood there for a moment, staring at the closed door, her chest tight. She slowly turned around and looked at the staircase. Her uncle's room was upstairs. She tiptoed to the living room and sat, clutching the dice tightly in her palm. Maybe he wouldn't come down. Maybe he was asleep. But she was wrong. Minutes later, she heard footsteps descending the stairs. Daniel appeared in the hallway, dressed in a sleeveless shirt and shorts, his eyes dark and dangerous. "So," he said, walking slowly toward her. "Your mummy has gone out again, ABI?" Grace stood up quickly. "Yes. But she'll be back very soon." He smirked. "And who will save you now?" She backed away as he approached. "Uncle, please, don't come near me." He ignored her words, still moving closer. Grace darted to the side, but he grabbed her wrist and yanked her back. She screamed. "Leave me alone," she cried, struggling. He dragged her to the couch, breathing heavily. "Keep shouting. Nobody go hear you." Grace kicked and hit his arm, but he was stronger. He pushed her down onto the couch and pinned her shoulders. "I warned you, Grace. You didn't listen." She screamed again. "Help! Somebody help me!" Then, a knock. A loud knock. Daniel froze. More knocking. Then a voice. "Hello? Is anyone home?" It was a woman. Daniel cursed under his breath and jumped off Grace. She scrambled off the couch, tears streaming down her face, her hair in disarray. "Stay there," Daniel warned, pointing at her, but he was already panicking. The door suddenly opened. It wasn't locked. Standing there was Mrs. Okoro, Grace's teacher. Her eyes widened at the scene before her, Daniel standing over Grace, who was shaking and trying to cover herself. Mrs. Okoro didn't ask questions. She acted. With a cry of rage, she stormed in, took off one of her heels, and slammed it hard on Daniel's back. "You devil!" she screamed. "Is this what you've been doing?" Daniel stumbled, grabbing his back in pain. Grace ran to her teacher, clutching her tightly, sobbing uncontrollably. "Mummy's not here. He always tries to touch me. I told him to stop." Mrs. Okoro held her protectively. "It's okay, Grace. I'm here now. You're safe." At that exact moment, the door opened again. Mrs. Williams stood at the entrance, holding a brown file. She blinked at the chaos, her daughter crying in her teacher's arms, Daniel bent over, and one heel lying on the floor. "What's going on here?" she asked sharply. Grace looked up with tear-filled eyes. "Mummy." Mrs. Okoro stood upright. "Ask your brother what he's been doing in this house." Mrs. Williams looked at Daniel, confused. "Daniel, what's going on?" But Grace couldn't wait. Her voice broke as she shouted, "Uncle Daniel has been trying to touch me. Every time you go to work, he comes close. He said if I talk, you won't believe me. He tried to force me again today." Mrs. Williams dropped the file. "No, no, Grace, what are you saying?" she whispered, stumbling back. "It's true," Mrs. Okoro confirmed. "I walked in and saw it with my own eyes." Mrs. Williams turned slowly toward Daniel. Her hands shook. "Daniel, tell me it's not true." Daniel tried to recover, faking anger. "Aha, sis. It's a lie. She's a small girl. What does she know? She just wants attention." "Enough!" Mrs. Williams shouted, her voice filled with rage. "Don't lie to me." She stepped toward her daughter and touched her face gently. "Why didn't you tell me before, Grace?" "I tried, Mummy, so many times," she sobbed. "But you were always in a hurry. You never stayed long enough to listen." The words sliced through Mrs. Williams like a knife. Her knees gave way and she fell to the ground, sobbing. "I failed you," she whispered. Mrs. Okoro quickly took out her phone. "We have to report this. Right now." Within 20 minutes, 2 police officers arrived. Daniel, who had been silent and sweating in a corner, tried to escape, but it was too late. He was arrested immediately. As he was dragged out, he looked at Grace. "You'll regret this." But Grace didn't flinch. She stood beside her mother, holding her hand tightly. Mrs. Williams, through tears, turned to her daughter. "I'm so sorry, my baby. I didn't protect you. I thought giving you everything, the house, the books, the comfort, was enough. But I was wrong." Grace hugged her tightly. "I just wanted you, Mummy." Mrs. Williams cried into her daughter's hair. "I'm here now. I promise. I'll never let anything come between us again." This is not just Grace's story. It's the story of many young girls who suffer in silence. Let's protect our children. Let's listen when they speak. Let's believe them. Don't forget to subscribe for more touching and eye-opening stories. Share this story to spread awareness. It could save someone's life.